Hello and welcome to this week's edition of World Today, where the top focus is going to be the Israel-Palestine war. The war is underway, massive military offensive by Israel, but what's the backstory? Here's a look. The Israel-Palestine conflict is back in news with the worst attack that Israel has faced since its creation, making Gaza Strip a war zone. Here we give you a backstory to what and why of the current escalation. A sudden and shocking assault on Israel this past October 7th, a date which was meant to mark the joyous celebration of Simchat Torah. As the nation was in a festive mood, Hamas launched an unparalleled attack on Israeli territory, breaching its land, water and air, firing a barrage of rockets, indulging in ground assault and taking hostages, Israelis and foreign nationals. A grim reminder of the Yom Kippur attack from half a century ago.
Israel is at war. We didn't want this war. It was forced upon us in the most brutal and savage way.
The Israeli defense, renowned for its Iron Dome system, which has consistently intercepted over 90% of rockets, found itself overwhelmed. Not only did rockets rain from the sky, but the Mediterranean Sea, a natural barrier, was no longer safe. Hamas defied the long-standing naval blockade, landing on Israeli shores. But the true shocker was Hamas's audacious air strategy. Hamas militants took to the skies using powered hang gliders, bypassing the air defenses and infiltrating Israel. The rapid assault resulted in heavy casualties. With the nation reeling, Israel responded.
No food, nowhere to live, and everyone is attacking us. And they destroyed our homes. We can't live like this.
The loss in Gaza has already started mounting. Airstrikes have been carried out on Hamas's positions in Gaza, signaling the beginning of a full-blown conflict. But the true impact of such a war is seen on the civilians. In Gaza, homes have been pulverized, major blockade of food, water and electricity, and borders shut. The Palestinians in Gaza have nowhere to go. The bloodshed between Israelis and the Palestinians goes back a long time. Rising tensions in the West Bank had been hinting at a storm brewing. The Israel-Palestine conflict is a complex and long-standing geopolitical issue that dates back over a century. The shrinking of Palestinian land is often a focal point in discussions about the conflict. Here's a concise historical cartographic perspective. Here is a map of Israel and Palestine. This is Gaza, and this is where East Jerusalem and the West Bank are, all under the control of the Israeli state after the Six-Day War of 1967. Let's talk about the years prior to 1948. The region known as Palestine was under Ottoman rule for centuries and then under British control following World War I due to the Sykes-Picot Agreement. During the late 19th and early 20th centuries, the Zionist movement gained momentum, advocating for the establishment of a Jewish homeland in Palestine. In 1947, the United Nations proposed a partition plan that would divide Palestine into Jewish and Arab states, with Jerusalem as an international city. Jewish leaders accepted the plan, while Arab leaders rejected it. Then came the creation of Israel. In 1948, the State of Israel was declared. Immediately after, neighboring Arab countries invaded Israel. The war ended in 1949 with the signing of the armistice agreements. As a result, Israel expanded its territory beyond the UN's proposed borders. Hundreds of thousands of Palestinians fled or were expelled from their homes during the war, an event known as the Nakba. In 1967, Israel preemptively struck Egypt, leading to the Six-Day War with Egypt, Jordan and Syria. Israel captured the Gaza Strip and the Sinai Peninsula from Egypt, the West Bank and East Jerusalem from Jordan, and the Golan Heights from Syria. The Sinai was later returned to Egypt in 1982 following the Camp David Accords. The Oslo Accords were a series of agreements between Israel and the Palestine Liberation Organization, or the PLO. The accords led to the creation of the Palestinian Authority and the recognition of Israel by the PLO. It also began the process of transferring certain territories in the West Bank and the Gaza Strip to Palestinians. However, final status issues like borders, refugees, and the status of Jerusalem were left unresolved. Come 2005, although Israeli forces unilaterally withdrew from the Gaza Strip, abandoning their settlements there, the UN still regards Gaza to be under Israeli occupation because the latter controls anything that goes in and out of the tiny strip, be it food, electricity, or even human beings. Over the years, there have been numerous clashes, intifadas, that's uprisings, and military operations between Hamas, which controls Gaza, and Israel. In the West Bank, where Palestinian authorities Mahmoud Abbas governs the area, building of Israeli settlements there has been a significant point of contention. These settlements are considered illegal under international law, though Israel disputes this. The growth of these settlements has resulted in a patchwork of territories in the West Bank, complicating the establishment of a contiguous Palestinian state. The territorial changes since 1948 have been significant and are central to contemporary discussions about potential solutions. But that's not all. Fast forward to the present day. Israel is a UN-recognized state, whereas Palestinians continue to aspire to form a nation, seeking a two-state solution. There were numerous raids and bombings even in Palestinian refugee camps. The frequent violent confrontations at the Al-Aqsa Mosque and actions against Palestinian worshippers had been stoking the fires of resentment. Now let's look at the old city of Jerusalem, which is considered a holy site for Jews, Muslims, and Christians. At the beginning of Ramadan this year, the Damascus Gate entry was barricaded with fences. In April, Israeli police killed a 26-year-old Palestinian near the chain gate leading into Al-Aqsa Mosque. Clashes erupted after Israeli police entered the Al-Aqsa Mosque to eject Palestinians who had barricaded themselves in the mosque overnight to pray. Some 400 Palestinians were arrested. The Israeli raid on the mosque was condemned by the Palestinians and the Arab countries. Israeli forces carried out a second expulsion raid on the Al-Aqsa Mosque. The United Nations Security Council called for a closed session to discuss the situation. The last straw indeed was when Israeli National Security Minister Itamar Ben-Gvir, a far-right politician and Prime Minister Netanyahu's alliance partner, visited the Temple Mount, or the Al-Aqsa compound, together with the security secretary and police chief. Meanwhile, murmurs of a Saudi-Israeli deal brought its own set of tensions. The potential deal, seen by many as sidelining the Palestinian cause, added another layer to the complex geopolitics of the region. Israel's leadership, particularly under Netanyahu, has been under scrutiny. Also, all other peace accords between Israel and other Arab nations under the Abraham Accords. This also puts in jeopardy the recently signed India-Middle East-Europe Corridor, or the IMEC initiative. It didn't help Israel's cause when Netanyahu brandished a map of Israel at the United Nations General Assembly session this year, omitting all Palestinian territories, widely viewed as the most extreme in Israeli history. The Israeli premier presented a series of maps, including one that did not show the occupied West Bank, East Jerusalem, or Gaza.
Here's Israel in 1948. It's a tiny country, isolated, surrounded by a hostile Arab world. In our first 70 years, we made peace with Egypt and Jordan, and then in 2020, we made the Abraham Accords, peace with another 4 Arab states.
Hamas had been warning Israeli forces against their actions in Al-Aqsa, Sheikh Jarrah, and the refugee camps. Then there were attacks on Al Jazeera and the AP offices. The impact was to reduce flow of information coming in from Gaza. In May of 2022, Palestinian-American journalist Shireen Abu Akleh was killed while doing her job reporting in the West Bank. According to the Committee to Protect Journalists, her death was not a tragic one-time event, but actually part of a long, deadly pattern. So what comes next? As of now, Israel's partners, particularly the United States of America, is sending all the military support in Israel's military efforts against the Hamas. But somewhere down the line, there will have to be talks for ceasefire as civilian casualties in Gaza start mounting. UN, Egypt, Qatar have all been involved in mediating efforts. Turkey has also stepped in. But at the end of the day, Israel will have to take a call. Netanyahu is in an unenviable position of having the worst attack on Israel on his watch. And if he doesn't avenge this attack, it will mean his and his allies' political demise. This, even as the dust settles, the region grapples with the aftermath and the quest for peace becomes even more elusive. Stay with us for updates on this unfolding situation. Joining me on India Today is Alex Gandler, who is the Deputy Spokesperson at the Ministry of Foreign Affairs in Israel. Thank you so much for joining us here on India Today, Alex. Beginning with the military offensive, we are seeing ground offensive, we are seeing air offensive by the Israeli forces. But is this the real military offensive that Israel is planning, or is there going to be evacuation of the Israeli population from the border areas, and then we'll see the real military offensive?
Hello, first of all, and shalom to all the viewers. Israeli counter-terrorist operations are currently conducted in the Gaza area. Both by air power, our Israeli Air Force, both by ground and artillery fire, and Israeli Navy. We are currently in the operations. We have started operations. I can't tell you where it's going to go currently. It might escalate a bit more. There is a goal to this operation, and it is to ruin Hamas's rule over the Gaza Strip and its citizens and its terror over Israeli citizens.
Right, Alex, but in this entire military offensive, we are going to see a lot of civilian casualty. Gaza is a place with 2.2 million population, densely populated area. How are the Israeli forces going to minimize civilian casualty?
Yes, unfortunately, there are civilians that are coming in harm's way. Israel is trying to minimize it as much as possible. We are conducting our operations with maximum precision in order to hit terror targets. Unfortunately, Hamas, who is the ruling party in the Gaza Strip, has taken upon itself to hide in civilian buildings, under civilian infrastructure, in mosques, in hospitals, in schools, in United Nations schools, and they know it. Just yesterday, I heard a report about Gaza civilians who are asking for the Hamas Interior Ministry to evacuate them. They were told not to evacuate in any case, and if they will be evacuated by themselves, they will be put back in their houses. This is a threat by Hamas on Palestinians in Gaza itself. Hamas is a terror organization very similar to what we remember ISIS being several years ago. There is no distinction, to be honest, from now on. When we say Hamas, we mean ISIS, and when we say ISIS, we mean Hamas. And we saw it now, just yesterday, Israeli troops going through the kibbutzes that were ravaged by Hamas fighters found ISIS flags with ISIS ideology textbooks that they brought with them into our territory of Israel.
For now, we know that Iran has said that they have no hand in the October 7th attack. We also know that Hezbollah is saying they're not going to cooperate or collaborate with Hamas. But what's your reading of the situation on the ground? Are we looking at, or are you looking into, is Israel looking into Hamas and the backing it is or could get from external forces?
Absolutely. Absolutely. We're looking into whoever helps Hamas. Whether it be private individuals or state-sponsored help that Hamas is receiving. I will currently not discuss it in a wider forum. I think you all have seen reports about it in different media outlets. I can not confirm or deny them. I do want to speak to those people who support Hamas, even via social media by tweeting Free Palestine or such things. You are currently actively supporting a terror organization. You're supporting their morale. You're supporting them fighting against civilians. You're supporting the way they kill women and children, burn houses on their residence. You are supporting terrorists by doing so.
So you do expect India to designate Hamas as a terrorist organization as well?
The state of Israel expects all countries in the world to designate Hamas as a terror organization.
Alex Gandler, thank you so much for speaking with India today.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Joining me from the United States of America is White House's former special envoy to the Middle East, Jason Greenblatt. Thank you so much for joining us on this show, Jason. Let's begin with the larger picture on where is this entire crisis headed. Are we looking at the Israeli military yet again entering Gaza and having their presence there? Or will we be seeing not just decimation of Hamas, but also acknowledgement and realization that there needs to be a solution to this entire crisis with the two-state solution?
Well, I think to answer that question, we have to go backwards a little bit. We have to understand that this was a massacre. This was a pogrom. This was actions by Palestinian terrorists funded and aided by Iran, the Iranian regime, I should say, where babies were beheaded, women were raped, mothers were killed in front of their children, children killed in front of their parents. So I think the fundamental question is, how does Israel defend itself? Has Israel been left with no choice after all these years to recognize that Hamas's charter, which calls for the destruction of the state of Israel, have they no choice but to finally say, we can no longer tolerate this. 1,000 or 1,200 of our citizens were murdered in cold blood, and we're going to have to uproot Hamas once and for all. To talk about the two-state solution at this point in time is meaningless. Even if this didn't happen, we always had the issue that the Palestinian leadership is divided between two sides. One is the Palestinian leadership in Ramallah, weak, corrupt, not particularly cared for or liked by its population, and the terrorists, Hamas and Palestinian Islamic Jihad in Gaza. The suggestion that any form of peace could be discussed at this point, I think, misses the point.
Right, Jason, but also the United States of America has been really working very hard to normalize relations between Israel and the other Arab nations. We've had the Abraham Accords. We were looking at a Saudi-Israel peace deal. But with this attack, where do you see these peace accords go? Where do you see the normalization of ties between Israel and the Arab world?
I think over time, first of all, I think the Abraham Accords countries that have signed the peace agreement will remain in the accords. There might be a cooling off period. Perhaps travel will slow down. I hope business doesn't slow down. It might, but I don't see it disappearing. As far as the future, which is really your question, I believe in it. I'm optimistic. You know, you can't be in the business that I was in, which is diplomacy, without being an optimist. I don't think it's going to happen today, but the reason, or in the coming weeks or months, but I think the reason I'm optimistic is that these countries realize that they are also in the line of fire of the Iranian regime. Hamas is just as much an enemy of Israel as it is Saudi Arabia, as it is the United Arab Emirates and other countries in the region. Hamas is an enemy of the United States of America. So is the Iranian regime. So are the Houthi terrorists, Hezbollah. These are all terror groups who want to undermine safety and security in the region. The region understands that, and I think ultimately we will achieve more peace accords over time.
Right. Also, Jason, there is a lot of support coming in for Israel when it comes to military equipments, be it the United States of America, or for that matter, the UK. But there's also a point of view from various other quarters and countries who, by the way, all of them have come out and condemned the attack unequivocally. But there are certain major players in European countries who, after the GCC meeting, have said that they do not want to stop aid to the Palestinians, that the Gaza Strip should still be getting aid. What's your take on the situation that stands as of today, where there are countries who want to continue supporting aid, supporting and providing humanitarian aid to Palestinians?
It's a very difficult question. Nobody wants Palestinians who are seeking peace or ordinary lives, Palestinians who don't support Hamas, Nobody wants to see them suffer. If my own view, and I'm not in government anymore, but my own view would be if we could figure out a way to get aid to the people who are suffering, who don't support terrorism, and make sure that that aid is not misused, as it always has been by Hamas, to attack Israel, I would support that. But these are extraordinarily complicated questions and difficult to implement.
Right. Also, when it comes to the Hamas organization, the terror organization, Jason, there are quite a few important countries, including the United States of America, that have come out and declared Hamas a terror organization. But there are many others, including India, who've not declared Hamas a terror organization. What's the expectation of the United States of America or Washington, D.C. when it comes to Hamas vis-a-vis the international community?
I'd like to say I'm disappointed by those who have not declared it a terror organization, the same way I'm disappointed when the U.S. lifted the terror label off the Houthi terrorists in Yemen that constantly attack the United Arab Emirates and Saudi Arabia. I think people are either naive or they're using politics or they're afraid. But the events of last weekend, where Hamas went in and committed those barbaric attacks and atrocities against civilians, Israeli Jewish civilians, for nothing more than they're Jews, dragging them out of their bed. We haven't seen this kind of carnage since the time of the Holocaust. Any country that doesn't recognize that Hamas is a terror organization, shame on them. The same with Hezbollah, the same with the Houthis. They're nothing more than what ISIS is, or what some in the region call Daesh.
Finally, Jason, before I let you go, what's the way forward when it comes to a lasting solution between Israel and Palestine? We do know that Israel, including the United States of America, are quite determined to take out, to decimate Hamas, to ensure that there is no repeat of the kind of attack that we saw on the 7th of October. But there has to be a forward movement from here on. A lot of civilian lives would be lost. So what's the way forward?
Well, the immediate thing is for Israel to be able to do what it has to do and take out Hamas, to decimate Hamas. Is it achievable or not? I don't know. And you're correct in saying that there will be probably, unfortunately, sadly, a massive loss of life. War is a horrible, horrible thing. But this is not a war that Israel asked for. It's a war that was thrust upon Israel. At some point, and I think the point has come after this massacre, countries in the world have to ask themselves, what would we do if we were attacked like this? I don't think there's any sane country in the world that would allow its civilians to be attacked like that and not figure out a way to repel that attack and try to prevent it from from happening again at whatever the cost. But beyond that, and it's a very important and fair question, can peace be achieved? Well, then we're back to all the issues that we struggled with when I was at the White House. Beyond just the issues of land and Jerusalem and refugees, which they're not really, many of them or most of them are really no longer refugees. Can there be a Palestinian leadership that unites its people and wants to have a peaceful future and be good neighbors with Israel? That's always been the open question. And sadly, after this weekend, we have to wonder if there is no such leadership. All of my Palestinian friends who called me over the last week have expressed shock and horror at what happened. They're just as dismayed as everybody else around the world, but they have no power. They're afraid to speak their voice. They won't come on TV with me or write opinions with me. Why? Because they're afraid. They're afraid that they're going to get beat up. They're afraid that their family members will get beat up. Until that society changes, where the good people among the Palestinians can actually chart a future for them, I'm not optimistic that any form of peace can happen.
Jason Greenblatt, thank you so much for joining us here on India Today.
Thank you for having me.
That's all in this edition of World Today. Stay tuned to India Today for all the latest news and updates on the Israel-Palestine war.